in the cold, out in the dark, something's lurking at the edge of the park. People be warned, people beware, there's a storm on the rise and it's covered in hair. Hear him cry, hear him howl, looking for someone to disembowel. Claws like a hook, eyes like coal, feet so big they're gonna crush your soul. They call him Sasquatch.
Hello, and a big, warm, fuzzy welcome to the first show of the year. This is Yowie Central, and I'm Sarah. Here at Yowie Central, we explore the latest on Yowie research in Australia. We hear Yowie witness testimonies, and we talk to the experts. And we dive headfirst into paranormal encounters, UFOs and aliens, orbs, psychics, and all sorts of mysterious phenomena. I am so happy to be back with you after my summer break. I missed you. I had a couple of weeks off, and I've spent the last 3 weeks busily interviewing witnesses, researchers, and other guests to line up an awesome set of conversations for you. We've got Yowies, Dogman, other weird cryptids, ghosts, negative entities, attachments, UFOs and aliens, starseeds, and so much more. I'm so excited. I hope you are. Now for some news. I'm stepping back from doing the show on Main FM for a while to concentrate on growing this podcast. The Main FM crew are excellent people, the most supportive, lovely bunch, and it's definitely the best little station in the nation. But as with all radio gigs, timing and strictly limited show length is essential. And I decided I'd like to spread my wings a bit and not be confined to a set show length of between 56 and 58 minutes, because I often end up talking to the guests on my show for longer than that, and I either have to cut out juicy stuff or make the show into 2 parts. And I usually find as a listener, I prefer to have the whole shebang in one go rather than a week apart and separated into 2 sections. So this is my very first independent show, and I'm really excited about the future for Yowie Central, and I really hope you'll come on this journey with me. I will be monetising the show soon too, so that means that you might have to put up with a few ads, but it also means I can maybe cover my equipment expenses and a little bit of the time and creative effort I put into the show. I'm also working towards having an extra show a week for members, but that will happen once I've got my new website up and running, and the website will be happening sometime in the next month, 6 weeks. I'll let you know when it's ready to go. So, drum roll please. First up for the year, we're heading to Ohio in the United States of America. I caught up a few weeks ago with my friends Shane Grove and the Judge from the Shadows podcast. Shane and the other host of From the Shadows, Jason, were guests on the show last year, and they very kindly invited me to be a guest on their show as well. So the Judge actually had a terrifying, and I mean terrifying, Dogman sighting when he was a teenager. He's going to tell us all about it this week, and it's absolutely spine-tingling. Just before we get into it though, I want to send a big hug and all my healing energy to Jason, the other host and producer of From the Shadows. He's not well at the moment, so Jason, if you're listening, I hope you're feeling much, much better soon. I can't wait to hear you back on your show, and sending you lots of love from Australia. Right, are you ready to get scared? Good. Here's Shane and the Judge.
I'm excited for the people of Australia to hear my story, because I don't know that Australia has anything like this.
Well, I would absolutely love to hear your story. I believe Shane told me that it is a Dogman story. So where do you want to start with that? Because I'm excited.
Well, as the great Bob Seger once said in a song, it seems like yesterday, but it was long ago.
Oh, jeez.
So are you,
19,
Like yesterday.
back in 1903.
I'm not that old. Come on.
So, Judge,
So-
why don't you share with the Yowie Central listeners what happened? What's the story?
Well, it was mid 80s, mid 80s, about 19, I think it was 1985, and it was summer. And I lived out in the country, and now country, I guess, is relative to how close you live to a city. But um, I lived in a small town, about 15,000 people, and I lived north of that town on a state route about 5 miles out of town. And so it was classic American, middle America, cornfields, bean fields, that sort of stuff. So I was training for this road race. It was 10 kilometers, and I had never really been a runner before, and I got kind of conned into doing this. And so this guy had been coaching me, and he said, okay, you're going to run this many miles each day, and it had been unseasonably hot for about 3 straight days. The temperature had been kicking up around 100 degrees. My coach had said, hey, I'll give you a choice. If you want to run your 5 miles early in the morning before the sun comes up, or do you want to do it in the evening? Well, I am not a morning person. So I said, hey, I'm just going to run at night, if that's okay. And he says, yeah, okay. Well, I lived out in the country. And so there was a little side road that was about 150 yards from my house. It was called Temple Road. It was, about a lane and a half wide. And it ran for 2.5 miles down to a state route. And so I thought, okay, I can run down 2.5 miles, turn around, come back, and there's my 5 miles. I got my 5 miles in. So the plan was I was going to take off running about 8:30, 9 o'clock as the sun was going down. Well, of course, I procrastinated and didn't get out the door till 9:30, almost probably 10 o'clock by the time I got out the door. Now, it's nighttime, but the moon was out. It wasn't a full moon or anything like that, but it was very bright. And I wasn't the least bit scared of the dark, or certainly not scared about running down some country road at night. I was a country boy, grew up playing hide and go seek in barns and cornfields and stuff like that. So I didn't have any trepidation about going out and running at night. So still there with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Judge, she's on the edge of her seat.
No, I'm saying it's not true.
You're breaking the tension. You're breaking the tension.
I just want to make
Just
sure
keep
I'm not talking and people are listening, because my thing keeps making a weird crackle.
Yeah, it
So,
does. It sounds like
just
the connection is a little bit loose on your mic or something. So it's.
Or are you talking on speaker?
No, I'm not talking on speaker. So
Okay.
okay.
It must be your fortress of solitude. The connection is.
I'm no Superman. So back to the story. So it's pushing 10 o'clock, and I leave my house, and I have to go south about 150 yards, and I turn right onto this little road. Now, to understand the geography here, on the right hand side of the road, which would be the north side of the road, it was all cornfield, about 6 feet tall, because it was head high to me. 6 feet tall all the way down to the first crossroad, which was a mile. And on the left hand side was all beans, soybeans, which were only, they stick up about 18 inches or 2 feet max probably. And there was an old farmhouse that nobody was living in at the time on the side with the beans. So I take off, and I'm running. And back in the 80s, there was no iPods or MP3 players or anything like that. It's just me listening to the night sounds. That's it. No headphones on, no Walkmans or anything like that. So I get down to the 2.5 mile mark, and I turn around completely uneventful. And on the way back, when I get to the mile mark where I only have 1 mile to go, where that crossroad, the first crossroad was, to my left, which would be on the north, since I was coming back, was a woods. And I couldn't tell you how big the woods was. It was pretty thick, 30 acres maybe of woods. I don't know if it was that big. And then there was the road. There's a little road called Flickinger Road. And when you cross that road, the bean field started back up again. So I'd have a mile of beans on my right and a cornfield on my left for a mile. And it was at that moment that what I describe as like my spider senses. This weird kind of feeling came over me, like something in the woods was watching me. And I'd never had that feeling at any time that night because I ran by the woods the first time. I never had any, nothing. And it was this very overpowering feeling that something was watching me. And so I stopped. I actually stopped, and I was looking into the woods. I thought, man, this is really creepy. And as I was looking into the woods, I hear the corn rustling across the road. So I'm facing the woods, and so then I turn to the sound, and there in the cornfield, and like I said, the corn was about 6 feet tall. I see a bunch of corn moving like in a circle. Now the corn is about 3 or 4, maybe 5 rows in. Okay, so whatever's in the cornfield, I can't see it because it's too far in, and it's moving around, and it's really big, and there's lots of corn moving. And it struck me as really odd why the corn would be moving in that manner. Like, you ever seen a dog like continue to turn circles on like its bed?
Yes.
Because it's trying to get comfortable, and you're like, what the hell is this dog doing? This made 20 circles.
Yes.
Well, in hindsight, that's what it looked like. It looked like something was in the corn doing circles. Now, indigenous to Ohio is there's no bears. There's no wolves. There's, maybe southern Ohio, there might be some mountain lions or something like that. But the only thing really indigenous in that area at that time was deer. And that seemed very odd, but I thought, well, I don't know, maybe it's a deer trying to lay down or make a nest or something, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it was just weird. And then all of a sudden it stopped. And the corn stopped moving. It just stopped. It was still. And I thought, oh, that's really weird. So I'm getting the hell out of here, right? So I take off running, and when I take off running, whatever was in the cornfield takes off running with me at the exact same pace, at the exact same speed, and it's pacing me. But it's in the corn 3 or 4 rows in, and I can see the corn moving, and it's a lot of corn because whatever it is, it's big. And so I thought, this is really weird because a deer would not do this. A deer would have ran from me. It wouldn't have, it would have got the hell away from me. And my brain starts running like all these scenarios, like, what the hell is this thing? One, I knew it wasn't a dog. It was, there's way too much corn to be moving to be a dog. It's not a deer. Deers would have taken off. And I thought, a person? Could somebody be out here playing a prank on me? But, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. There is no person just lurking around hoping that some kid's out jogging and is going to pull a prank on them. And besides that, if you've ever run in a cornfield, it is really hard and it will cut the hell out of you. And there's no way somebody at night is keeping pace with me on a road. So I get scared and I take off running a lot faster. And when I take off running a lot faster, this thing picks up the pace with me. And it's pacing me perfectly. Like it's stride for stride. And so I come to an abrupt stop. Like, the proverbial, I stop on a dime, right? And when I stopped, it stopped perfectly. Like, it didn't run past me 3 feet and double back. It stopped, exactly parallel to me. And when that happened, that's when I really started to freak out. Because at that point, I knew that whatever was in the corn could see me or sense me, know my exact location, but I could not see it. And there was nothing that I could think of logically that could do that. So I sat there and just kind of like stared at the corn, fully expecting something to come out, right? I mean, you expect this thing's running with you, it's pacing you, and now you stop. You think this thing's going to come out. And so I kind of brace myself for whatever's going to come out of the corn. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And nothing comes. And the corn is perfectly silent. And I mean, it doesn't move an inch. I mean, it doesn't move at all. So whatever this thing was, as big as what it was, and as much corn as it moved, and it could just make itself silent, just perfectly still. Nothing. So now my adrenaline starts to, spike. And this is I experience what people describe as the fight or flight mode. And so I get this massive adrenaline dump, and I just take off running as hard as I can. I mean, as hard as I can. And the problem with that is, the human body can do that for so long, and then you lose all that huge adrenaline dump. And when I take off running as fast as I can, the thing in the corn takes off running same speed as me. And I mean, we're gunning it. And the corn, and I'm running and I'm breathing, because I got that panic mode.
Yeah.
And suddenly I realize it doesn't matter how hard I run, I'm not outrunning this thing. And so I stop again. But this time when I stop, I've kind of burnt all my nitrous oxide, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've burned all that adrenaline dump, and now I'm starting to hyperventilate. And my breathing's like, and now I'm really scared because now no matter what I do, I know I physically cannot outrun this thing. There's just no chance, because I was running as fast as I'd ever ran in my life. And this thing kept perfect pace with me, and it's 3-4 rows into a cornfield. So that means if it's not in the cornfield and it's running on the pavement with me, it's 3, 4, 5 times faster than me. It's toying with me, right? It's just toying with me. So at this point, I'm starting to panic to try to figure out what I'm going to do. But once again, as I'm sitting there gasping for air, this thing doesn't come out of the corn. It's just, once again, it's perfectly silent. It's perfectly still. And I can't remember, and maybe because I was breathing so heavily and my heart's pounding out of my chest, but I never heard this thing make a sound. You know what I mean? Like it didn't make a sound, nothing.
Not even any breathing noises or anything like that.
No,
Nothing.
I mean, nothing.
Wow.
So really bizarre. So now I'm thinking, okay, I'm in a lot of trouble here. What am I going to do? And I remembered, because I could see it, the old farmhouse is coming up on my right. And they had this tree, this big old oak tree, I think it was oak, that set out in front of, right out by the road. And it had lots of limbs on it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to just jog to this farmhouse, and I'm going to climb this tree, and I'm going to go as high up as I can to get away from this thing, whatever it is. And I'll take the high ground, and maybe if I get high enough, I'll be able to look down in the corn and see it. And if I have to sit in this tree all night, I'll sit in the tree all night. You know what I mean? Like I'm to the point where, I'm going to do whatever I can. So I take off jogging, and when I take off jogging, the thing in the corn takes off jogging with me. And once again, it just stays perfect pace with me. It doesn't get ahead of me. It doesn't lag behind me at all. It is running perfectly parallel with me. And when I get to the farmhouse, I look, and somebody had dehorned the tree. They had trimmed all the branches off.
Oh, no.
And I don't know why. I don't know whether it was because of electrical lines or phone lines or whatever they did, but they had cut all the damn branches off all the way up to like a certain part. And there was no way I could climb this tree. I mean, there's just no way. So now I've got a half mile to go to get to the state route that I lived on. And so I start thinking to myself, okay, I just started walking. When I got to that point, I just started walking. And and the thing in the corn just walked with me. And I don't know how far I walked, whether it was 25 yards, 50 yards, you know what I mean? But, I doubt it was 100 yards. I doubt I walked that far. But my mind started thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Because for me to go home, I'm going to have to get to the highway and turn left. So I'm going to intersect with this thing because the corn did not run all the way up to the road. So there, you had the road, and then there was like a ravine ditch, and then there were some wildflowers and weeds, and then there was the corn. And so there was probably 30 feet, maybe 40 feet of weeds before the corn picked up. So I know if I'm going to go left to go to my house, that corn's going to end, and I'm going to run right into this thing, whatever it is. So I remembered that one of my good friends lived to the right, about 200 to 250 yards down on the same side of the road I did. So I'd have to cross the road to get to his house. And I thought to myself, okay, there's a bean field here. What if I just cut diagonally across this bean field to try to get to his house and put as much distance between me and this thing, whatever's in the corn? But I realized, being a farm kid, the way the rows of beans were planted, and I don't know if any of your Australian listeners are familiar with bean fields, but to try to cut across those beans would be almost impossible. You'd get tripped up. You couldn't run across them. You guys have soybeans in Australia?
Yes, we do. I'm pretty sure we do. Yeah.
So any listeners out there would know what I'm talking about. It would just be practically impossible to cut across the rows of beans. And the other thing I was thinking, and keep this in mind, this is a 15-year-old kid thinking, not a 50-year-old guy, is that I remembered, and this sounds silly, but back in elementary school and like in gym class, when you played tag, and just because some kid was faster than you didn't always mean he could tag you, because if you were, you could juke and run and turn and twist and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, if I'm on concrete, I can be like I'm playing tag. If this thing would run out of the corn at me and try to grab me, maybe I could twist, jerk like I did playing tag. But if I was in the bean field, there's no way I could maneuver. I would just fall down and it would be on top of me. So I decided not to try to cut across the bean field. And I decided I was just going to jog very lightly to conserve energy until I got to the road, to the highway. And then I was going to sprint right and head to my buddy's house. But one of the things I had to worry about was that highway at the time was really busy with semi trucks. And if anybody wants to look on a map in Ohio where this takes place, that State Route 4 runs up to Lake Erie, and there's amusement parks and there's boating and camping. And so during the summer, it is a highly traveled highway by people. And so one of my concerns was, I try to run across this road and I get splattered by a semi truck or somebody coming and going from the lake. So I knew I had to time this up, because I didn't want to have to get to the road and have to come to a complete stop and lose all momentum. Because like I said, there was about 30, 40 feet before you get to the road where that corn's going to stop. So I start jogging and I quit walking. I start my jogging, and this thing starts running with me again, and it's pacing me the whole way. And I'm getting closer. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be like shooting out of a cannon when I know that I can cross the road and not get hit. I'm going to shoot across this thing as fast as I can, and I'm not looking back. I'm not going to look and try to make it. Well, as I got close to the highway, I looked to the left and I saw a semi truck coming, but it was far enough down that I knew I could get across. And I looked to my right and there's nothing coming. So thank God I've timed this where I'm going to be able to run. But as I started just before I started to wind up the engine to take off sprinting, I did what I said I wasn't going to do. And that is I turned and I looked. I didn't want to look because I thought if I looked, because I didn't know what it was, I thought I might freeze up. You know what I'm saying? And if I froze up, just that ever second that I froze up, maybe this thing would get me. But just as I started to wind up, I turned my body and I looked at the corn because the corn was ending, and that's when I saw it. I saw this thing crest and come through the corn. And it was about, I would say, where its head was about 6 feet tall. It had the head of a dog. It had high pointed ears. Its shoulders were rolled forward. Okay. And maybe I'm going to use a bad analogy here for you guys in Australia, but like a rugby player.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm going to use the wrong term here. As it's getting ready to go in for a scrum.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was bent forward. Its shoulders were rolled forward like it was in an athletic position. And to me, it looked like, and it was clearly standing on two legs, but it looked like it wanted to drop to all fours and run. You know what I'm saying? Like the way it's the way its shoulders, its shoulders pulled back like a person. They were more bent forward. And so it had long arms and dark fur. I can't tell you whether it was black fur or dark gray or dark brown. I can't tell you that because it was night, but I got a good look at it. But it was fur, short hair, and it turned and this was the weird thing. It turned its body and looked at me. Like it didn't just turn its head because it walked out of it crusted the corn, and it didn't just turn its head and look at me. It actually pivoted its shoulders, its waist, and looked at me. And I can't tell you what the legs were like, and I can't tell you if it had a tail or anything like that, because the weeds were probably, 3 feet, 3.5 feet high, because those weeds ran right up to the corn. And it turned and it looked at me, and that's when I said, "That's it. It's go time." And so I took off sprinting across the road, and I was convinced, and I didn't look back, I was convinced this thing was going to drop to all fours and lay chase to me. And so I sprint across the road, and I'm sprinting to my buddy's house, and they had a swimming pool outside their house with a chain link fence around it, and it was an in-ground pool. And they usually always had the gate open to the pool, and as I'm getting there, I look and I see that they have the gate closed and it's latched. And so I know I don't have time to stop at the fence and lift the latch gate to get through if this thing's chasing me. So I say, "Hell, I'm going to jump the fence." So as I'm getting close to the fence, I jump up and I throw both my feet up in the air to the left, and I put my right hand on top of it had like the scallops, you know what I'm talking about? Like a chain link fence, the top like scalloped.
Yeah.
And it just gashed me right across my side. Just gashed me, cut me. And I landed in a weird stumbling position. And I don't know why, but my first instinct was just don't jump in the pool. Just jump in the pool. So I dove head first into the pool, and I slid. I'll never forget this. This is just, like Bob Sears said, it seems like yesterday. I remember my chest sliding down the slope because the pool was like 10 feet deep in its deepest spot. And I remember my chest sliding down the pool, and I was blowing my air out because I didn't want to pop up. I didn't want to be buoyant. And when I got to the bottom, I was holding my nose tight, and I blew my air out. And I sat on the bottom of the pool, and I looked up, fully expecting to see this thing sitting on the edge of the pool waiting on me. And I looked, in what seemed like, it seemed like a minute, but no way it was a minute. The way I held my breath for a minute in the water. But it seemed like a long time. And when I didn't see anything, I swam to the top. Now I had running shoes on, so it was like really hard to swim. And I get to the edge of the pool. I look around. I'm like, go, go. So I jump out of the pool and I run up, and my buddy had a sliding glass door to their patio, and he had a curtain like across it, so you couldn't see in. And I was, they always had their sliding glass door unlocked, even if they weren't home. So I guess I never even thought the door could have been locked. But I grab that sliding glass door and I rip it open as hard as I can, and I run through the curtain. And my buddy was sitting there. His parents weren't home, and this is the one amusing part of the story. Was his family was one of the first families around that had gotten a satellite dish. And if you remember the old satellite dishes from the 80s, they looked like they were 50 feet wide and you could beam something to outer space.
Yep.
And he had dialed in the Playboy channel. So here's the,
as you do when you're a teenage boy.
When I rip that open, the first thing I see is this lovely lady bare breast on the TV, which you have to understand, in the 80s in the country, what you would never have seen. And I look, and then he screams as loud as he can because he thought I was his parents that came home and caught him watching the Playboy channel. And I slam the door shut. And keep in mind, here I am. I'm in my running shoes and running clothes, and I'm just soaking wet. And I slam the sliding glass door as hard as I can, and it bounces back open. I slam it again, and I scream, "Turn the lights out! Turn the lights!" He's panicking. He has no idea what's going on. And so I'm like, kill the lights. And he's, what's going on? And I'm telling him, just turn the lights on. So if I get the lights out, and I just kind of kept creeping around, peeking out windows. He's like, what the hell are you doing? And like, look, dude, there's something out there. There's something out there. There's something out there. And, and I'm looking, and I don't see anything. And the way his house was, they had all kinds of trees in the yards. This thing, if it was out there, could have been hiding behind anything. And so I said, look, I can't go out there. I cannot go out there. There's no way I'm going to go out there. And he's like, well, what's out there? What's out, dude? I said, I don't know. What's out there. And so I had to tell him the story. And it's like, look, there's something after me. There's something in the corn. But I didn't tell him exactly what I saw. And it's weird. And the thing is, when I saw it, the only thing that registered in my mind, which could be cataloged in my mind, is what I saw. Was the Egyptian god Anubis. Uh-huh. That's it. I mean, that was the only thing. Keep in mind, I was 15 years old. There's no internet. There's no books out there about cryptids that I knew of or anything like that. And so the only thing that this thing even resembled to me was the Egyptian god Anubis. That's what it looked like. And I certainly wasn't going to tell my buddy, hey, look, the Egyptian god Anubis is chasing me through the corn. Lock the doors. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I didn't tell him. And so what's interesting is the very next night I played cards with Grover here, and I tell everybody the story, and I leave out what I actually saw. And the reason why I did that was because I didn't figure anybody would believe me. And two, I didn't want to be made fun of. I didn't want people to mock me, roast me, call me a liar, anything like that. And it's very interesting, when you were on our show, I wasn't on the show that night, but I went back and listened to your show, and you told, Grover and Jason that the people you talk to will tell you stories from 30, 40 years ago, and they never told anybody. Yeah. Because they were embarrassed or ashamed of them. And that's me exactly. And it's shocking how many people out there who've had these experiences don't tell people because they don't want to be made fun of or called a liar or mocked. Yeah. Now, the weird thing is, I never thought when I first saw it, I never thought werewolf, because to me, the werewolf was Lon Chaney Jr. wearing a pair of jeans and a flannel shirt and a flat face. And, on Hollywood, that was the werewolf for me. And so this thing didn't look like, this thing did not look like a man that would have metamorphosed into a canine. You know what I mean? Yeah. This thing just looked like a solid, big 6 foot. And if you ask me how tall I think it really was, it was 6 foot tall, hunched over, legs bent, like, you know what I mean? Like so I guess if you had stretched it out 6'5", 7 foot, maybe.
Did you get
You know,
did you get a look at the face?
oh yeah, I mean, I saw the face, the snout.
Yeah.
It was a dog's head.
Right.
It was absolutely a dog's head. Absolutely, and the elongated snout, the high pointed ears. And I've been asked by people, "Did you see any eye shine?" And I can't remember if I did or I didn't. I don't remember it. Like, I would say this much: it didn't have like glowing red eyes.
Yeah.
It did not.
Did it, like,
It
with that snout, how long was it? Was it more like a Doberman or a German Shepherd, or more like a pit bull? Was
German
it
Shepherd.
German Shepherd?
German Shepherd. Very long snout. Yeah, very long snout. Not a rounded. It was not a rounded snout like a pit bull. It was a Doberman German Shepherd snout, long face, very high pointed ears like a Doberman. I would say ears like a trimmed Doberman. That's what it looked like, and that's why to me it was Egyptian god Anubis. You know what I mean? Because it looked just like that. If you any of your listeners Google Egyptian god Anubis, and that's what I saw.
Yeah.
And so here I am, scared, don't think anybody's going to believe me. And so I don't tell anybody. But as I grew older and went to college, became a lawyer and all this different stuff, the internet arises, right? And so you start looking up stuff. So then I was thinking maybe what I saw that night was, remember Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes story, The Hounds of Baskerville,
Yes.
about the devil dogs?
Yeah.
I thought that's what it was. I thought, this is a devil dog. This is this devil dog. And I remember reading stories on the internet about in England where they had this rash of devil dogs that would chase carriages. But here's the thing. The way they described the devil dogs is they all ran on all fours. And they had glowing red eyes.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, that's not what I saw. What I saw was running on two legs. Now, I think it could run on all four legs too, but what I saw was standing on two legs upright like a person. And I said, okay, this isn't a devil dog. This isn't what they're describing that happened in England. So lo and behold, and I can't remember the exact year that I found it, but Linda Gottfried wrote a book called The Beast of Bray Road.
Uh-huh.
And it was, and she termed this creature that was up on Bray Road in Wisconsin, Dogman. And so I started reading about this, and then I started reading about some eyewitness accounts. And I'll never forget, I'm reading this book, and this guy describes what he saw as he thought it looked like the Egyptian god Anubis. And it hit me, that's what I saw. This guy saw what I saw. I'm not saying he saw the exact same creature, but he saw what I saw, this thing. And I remember calling Grover up saying, dude, I figured it out. I know what I saw. I now know 30 years later, I know what it is. I know what I saw. And I'm convinced today, as I sit here, that is what I saw. What now is described in popular crypto world culture is the Dogman.
You're listening to Shane Grove and the Judge on Yowie Central. And it was clearly playing with you, really, because it, if it wanted to get you, it could quite easily have done that.
That's an interesting story, because I was on a plane one time, and I was sitting next to this guy, and I was reading a cryptid book, and he's, you know how it is on a plane, right? And this guy kind of looks over at me, and he's, hey, what are you reading? I'm like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And then lo and behold, I'm telling this guy the story, okay? Because I'm on a plane with this guy. The story, and he says, man, it's a good thing you didn't turn left. And I said, yeah, I know, because I would have ran right in this thing. He goes, nah, you don't get it. He goes, I'm a hunter. I hunt wolves up in Canada and Minnesota. And he said, this thing, he's like, if this thing's a wolf by nature, if it's a canine, said they never hunt solo. They hunt in pack.
Right.
And what he was saying is that this thing was driving me to a kill zone. That's why it would slow down with me. It would pick up with it. Wanted to push me into an area where there was multiple of these things to kill me. And then I'm like, holy shit. And he said, look, he said, if you're out in nature, a wolf will almost never attack you by itself, solo, one-on-one. Almost never do that unless it's way, way, way bigger than you and you pose no threat of hurting it. Because if it would fight something equally as big as it and it got injured, guess what? That wolf could no longer run with the pack. It'd get left behind.
Yeah.
So they don't like to do that. They like to force you, the prey, into a kill zone where all of them jump you at one time. So then I'm thinking, holy shit. You know what I mean? Maybe it's
Holy shit, indeed. It could also have been maybe driving you towards a group of them. But I know some animals, some predator animals, the adults catch smaller animals and leave them for their pups to kill so they're training for hunting. So it could have been you were being driven towards the children, so they could have finished you off as well.
Yeah. Pleasant either way.
Either way.
That brings us to the debate. Yeah. So that brings us to the universal debate about what Dogman is. And Grover and I, we've talked for a long time about it, and I was convinced that it was a blood and guts creature, that it's a creature, and it just, like Sasquatch, and nobody's caught it, categorized it or whatever. But then we had Linda Gottfried on our podcast, and Linda, is the godmother of Dogman. She's the one that wrote the manual.
Yeah.
We found out, and this is the head scratcher. This is for all you listeners out there. She, because she'd done years of research, she decided that she was going to take a template of Dogman sightings and superimpose that or transpose that over Indian burial grounds. Where she came up with this idea, I can't remember. And what she did was, when she mapped them on a grid, they matched up perfectly. So where people were seeing Dogman sightings, they were also in close proximity to an Indian burial ground.
Right.
And then it started to be thinking, holy shit, are these things like supernatural guardians of burial grounds? So guess what I did after that show? You guessed it. I looked up on the map Ohio Indian burial grounds, and guess what set about 200 yards away from where I first saw the Dogman?
No way. Really?
Indian burial ground.
Far
Indian
out.
burial. Yep.
Wow.
So
yeah, there's actually two of them.
Yeah.
In the same, like within a half mile of that spot.
It would be really interesting to compare. We get a few Dogman reports over here. I wonder if there are Aboriginal burial grounds near where those sightings are. I might have to do a bit of research and let you know.
There you go. Now, what's interesting is then we had another guest on who was even older than me and had a Dogman experience that predated me. And her Dogman story is a little more terrifying than mine. And it tried to get in her car and chased him and all this stuff. And we asked her, would there have been an Indian burial ground nearby? She goes, oh, yeah, there was one right across. Like it was right there.
Yeah, like the other end of the road. Yeah.
At the other end of it. And like she had no idea that was the angle that we were going with. So right now, I would say there's two competing theories out there about Dogman. One is this is a flesh and bone creature that just hasn't been caught. Or this is a supernatural, multi-dimensional creature that comes and goes and wards off people from areas they don't want you in.
I tend to lean towards, at the moment, I'm leaning towards the latter. For our Sasquatch, Yowie, hairy friends, as well as Dogman, I'm moving away from the only flesh and blood to something more interdimensional, something more mysterious. Because some things just don't make sense, do they? If they're flesh and blood.
I was solely in the camp of flesh and bone, and maybe that was because I saw it and I saw it was real. Talking with Linda and doing more research, and I'm in the camp of, I think these are multi-dimensional creatures. I think they can manifest physical flesh and bone type things, but I didn't think they're stuck on our spiritual plane, I guess.
Well, but it's really interesting that I looked up a couple of the Dogman reports that we've got in our database before I spoke to you, and the descriptions of the creature that people saw, I've got a couple of different cases here. I've got 3 different cases. The description of the creature that people saw is identical to yours. In fact, one of the witnesses later sent us a picture of Anubis to describe what they saw. Exactly. So very tall, long pointy ears, pointy nose, ears like a Doberman was exactly what they said.
Yep, that's what I saw.
Yeah. Nose, snout of a dog, 2 meters tall, pointy claws, muzzle like a dog. Like they're all of those descriptions are exactly the same. So how do we put that together, that you're seeing exactly the same things that we're seeing over here?
Right, because you think about Australia as a continent, and think about that. There's just, I mean, there's not kangaroos in Ohio. Okay, there's not. You think about, how would there be if this was a flesh and bone creature? How would it be there and here, and then in Michigan and Wisconsin and all these other places? You know what I mean? If it was just a regular run of the mill, animal that science hadn't caught yet and classified.
Yeah, and how does it evolve from? Did it evolve from original wolves into a bipedal creature? Like, how does that evolution, the evolution of the locomotion?
So as I was on Sasquatch Chronicles, very famous podcast. And Wes.
I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that.
Who's she?
Yeah. So Wes was telling me that he had done some research into Dogman, and these things date all the way back to Mesopotamia. That some of his theories is that the Egyptians copied Anubis from these Mesopotamian Dogman creatures. Right. That these things been around for thousands of years. That the Mesopotamians worshipped them. They were around, that the Egyptian culture adopted that. And if you think about Anubis being god of the underworld and that kind of stuff, well, that kind of lines up with burial grounds and things like that.
Doesn't it? Yes.
Well, there are. Isn't there a story, Judge? I mean, that there was a like a civilization of dog men.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Cynocephaly, which is the head of the dog. What was the name of the? I'd have to look it up again. But we're talking ancient history. But there was a. Was it an island? Or was that? It might have even been described in the Odyssey by Homer. I think that island of dog-headed people.
Right. Right. You might be right on that.
Yeah, but so that's that was written.
Yeah, it's a few years since I'm not totally up to speed on my Ulysses, so.
Yeah, I read it in high school. That's as much as I can remember. But interesting though that those back when that was written, there was obviously something that that sort of a creature obviously existed because he's describing. Or at least existed in the culture, in the imaginations of people.
Right.
Well, and I can
tell you this much: what I saw was not in my imagination.
No, no, it doesn't sound like
it. And Sarah, what I will bet, and the judge may try to claim otherwise to prove his intelligence, saying that while we were familiar with what the Egyptian god Anubis looked like, we probably did not realize what exactly it stood for. You know what I'm saying? We didn't know that it was like the dead, so to speak, when we were in high school.
Yeah, I mean, I just knew, and I can't tell you why I knew the Egyptian god Anubis in the first place, whether I saw it in a textbook or, I couldn't tell you, but I just knew I knew what it looked like just from pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, but didn't know
Yeah,
anything of the history. I can only imagine. I can only imagine seriously how you felt when you looked at it and it turned around to look at you, directly at you. Talk about
Well,
needing clean underpants.
Well, the strange thing about it is, and this is in hindsight. At the time, I didn't think this, but since I've relived it in my mind, it walked out of the corn and it didn't just turn its head and look at me. It turned its entire torso to look at me, like it swiveled at its waist, which seemed very undog-like. You see what I'm saying?
Did it have a really... We've actually heard that movement described by a lot of Yowie witnesses, with the thought being that because they don't... Their neck muscles are so thick, they don't appear to have much of a neck at all, that they don't have the flexibility to turn their head over their shoulder, so they turn their whole body instead.
Oh, interesting. And you know what else? And I left out its chest. The one thing that stuck out at me, besides its rolled shoulders, was the massiveness of its chest. And this is the best way I could describe it. Do you know what a dachshund's chest looks like? Like a miniature dachshund?
Oh, yes.
A miniature dachshund?
Yes.
Well, a miniature dachshund has this massive muscular chest that protrudes out. And that's what this looked like. It looked like a dachshund's chest.
Yeah, right.
How it sticks out, like muscular.
Right. That is fascinating. That's the first time I've heard that described, actually. That's really interesting. And somebody, where was I hearing? I can't remember where now. It's a long time ago that I heard this, but somebody was looking at how a Dogman could possibly walk bipedally, walk on its 2 feet. And it had something about how you've got a standard dog has its little paw on the ground, and then there's a joint a little bit further up. Is it called the hock or something like that?
Right.
Yeah, it's like an ankle, but it's backwards. So that bit comes down to meet the ground, so that you've got the pads at the front of the foot, and towards the back you've got that hock bit that is usually elevated on a dog, but is actually on the ground with a Dogman. I don't know if that's...
Now, see, like, I couldn't see whether its knees bent forward or back. The weeds were too high up on it. But there was there's a city called Mansfield, which is about 25 minutes from where we live, and there was a trailer park there where some eyewitnesses saw 2 German Shepherd looking creatures walking and running on 2 legs, had been digging in garbage area like back-to-back nights. And when people came out and like yelled at them or whatever, and they ran off, and I think, if my memory serves me correctly, their legs were bent backwards. The joints were backwards, and there was a clicking sound when they ran, like a click, 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 click. And it was in one of Linda Godfrey's books, and they talked to a veterinarian or something and said, yeah, that clicking sound is very common in canines because their cartilage or something wears.
Oh, right. Oh.
Yeah, but but they were 2 of them tall, 6 foot tall, and they ran on 2 legs.
How very strange. How very strange. Have you haven't seen one since that time?
No, thank goodness. No, so some people are like, this is the thing that really kind of weirds me out about people, is that you see all these shows and people are like, we want to go out in the woods and find Sasquatch or Dogman. Like, why the hell would you do that? I mean, imagine this. If I told you, I said, hey, listen, there is an escaped Bengal tiger in these woods. You guys want to go in there and see if we can see it, take a picture of it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Would you do that? No, you wouldn't. What if
No.
I just told you, hey, listen, there's a silverback gorilla that escaped. Not even that, a chimpanzee. Have you heard about chimpanzees ripping people's faces off
Yeah.
and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't do it because you'd be like, no, these things are dangerous. So
You're talking to
look,
you're talking to Sarah. Everything in Australia can kill you, and
exactly.
she's not. I mean, a fly can probably kill you in Australia if you're not careful.
Everything's
I mean,
poisonous
come on.
here.
So, but it goes back to saying is that I've never went looking for one, and I have no intentions of if somebody said, hey, look, there's been some recent Dogman sightings. Would you go look? I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that.
No, I won't go out camping by myself. No way. I used to, but not anymore. No, I've heard way too many scary stories now. Way too many.
Yeah. So, but the other thing about Dogman in our area is if it was flesh and bone creature, there's so much livestock and deer and farms and these things could subsist easily, and nobody know.
Yeah, exactly right.
Well, the other thing that that I have thought about is where we live is not. I mean, there's not like 500 acres of woods, okay, at any one spot where we're at. I mean, it's pretty open fields, small patches of woods, and there's a lot of hunters where we live. A lot of farmers, a lot of hunters. So if this thing was a real flesh and blood creature, I don't know how it would survive, because this isn't like going out into the middle of the Pacific Northwest or looking for Sasquatch. Yeah, this is a place where there's eyes on the field, eyes in the woods all the time.
Yeah.
So to me, that's why this thing is not a flesh and blood creature, because I just don't think it. While there is plenty for it to eat, there's plenty to kill it too.
Yeah.
So it's just.
Here's the thing, echoing what Grover's saying on that. If you would go to Google Earth and you look up Bray Road in Wisconsin, and then you look up Temple Road in Bucyrus, they look exactly the same.
Right.
Hey, Seth Breedlove.
Yeah.
Seth Breedlove, who has been on Bray Road, said that as much a couple weeks ago. Like, this looks just like Bray Road.
Yeah. So Wisconsin, where they have the original, it's not really, my story predates Bray Road by 8 or 9 years, but same geographical locations, not that big woods, farms, hunters. Yeah. If these were flesh and bone things, you think somebody would shoot one.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it explains the fact that the possibility that they're interdimensional and they're not always here makes more sense to me. It could potentially explain why no one has come up with a dead one for people to examine.
Right.
People talk about shooting them and not actually doing any damage whatsoever. How do you do that if it's a real flesh and blood creature?
Well, and if you follow along with Linda and she's in this camp because she's seen them, is that there's sightings of orbs, these glowing orbs,
Mm-hmm.
in close proximity in time to Dogman.
Yeah.
Up on Bray Road, they've seen these, where there's lots of Dogman sightings of these orbs. And so do these things basically, are they able to traverse from our dimension to their dimension through these, energy orbs, or, I don't know.
I don't know, but
I really have an opinion on that yet.
No, and I've certainly thought about that, because we often get orbs reported in conjunction with Yowies.
Mm-hmm.
Same people see them at the same time, or very soon after, or soon before. It's quite a large number of reports that are orbs and Yowies at the same time. So it seems to be that there's some kind of connection. People often see UFOs at the same time as well. So So yeah.
It would just be weird that it was just a complete. I mean, the odds that I'm going to see a glowing orb, I'm out in the woods and I'm going to see a glowing. The odds I'm going to see that. Then rationalize that with the odds I'm going to see a Sasquatch, and then say, well, I see them both at the same time or in close time and proximity. It would seem to me that it's too big a coincidence that people would be seeing orbs and Dogman or orbs and Yowie Sasquatch in the same proximity if there wasn't some sort of nexus between the two.
Yeah. Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
I never saw anything like that. I mean, on my experience, I never saw any glowing orbs or anything like that. But I mean, I'm just one encounter.
Now the interesting thing to me about that though is there is a camp over here in North America, and I don't want to name the organization, but we all know who it is, who they do not want to hear any mention of any. I saw a UFO when I saw my Bigfoot,
Yeah.
or I saw an orb. Okay, they do not want you to even broach that subject, and I've heard the guys in charge of taking the reports, I guess, whatever you want to call them, have complained that their reports have been scrubbed clean by the official organization of any kind of supernatural tie-in.
Yeah.
When there's a
Right.
Bigfoot report.
Yeah, they're trying to control the narrative as to what they want you to believe Sasquatch, Yowie, or whatever is,
Which is silly.
Yeah.
It's just silly.
Well, we've been talking
I mean, look,
about
if
the existence of these beings. It seems nonsensical to me to because they're such a mysterious, strange being in and of itself. Why we would automatically go, well, I think they exist, but I refuse to entertain any other possibilities other than that they're flesh and blood. It seems to me that you're then cutting out a whole lot of other possibilities of what they actually are.
Well, but understand this too, that there's science, there's science that refuses to accept the possibility that there could be a God and there could be an afterlife and that there's, metaphysics, you know what I mean? And so you have scientists that say, no, this is flesh and blood. It has to be this way. We're not going to entertain the idea of anything metaphysical or paranormal. Not doing it. We don't care what evidence you bring to it. Not going to do it.
I think, because I get quite a lot of comments when I do talk about interdimensional beings, when I talk about the possibility of things not being flesh and blood. We get comments sometimes about how talking about that woo-woo side of things impacts on our credibility as researchers or the credibility of our, in inverted commas, cause. So I've got to, I tend to think that some people they're so concerned about what other people think and about being seen as credible that they won't entertain some of the slightly more out there possibilities because they think that it's going to make other people think they're completely crazy. I think if your cause is to prove to the world that these beings exist, discounting some of the possibilities of how they actually exist is kind of shooting your own foot, really.
Well, the ironic thing is that you don't. Everybody, there's going to be a certain amount of people who think you're crazy no matter what.
Yeah.
So why are you trying to sound a little less crazy?
Exactly. That's what
people?
I mean. It's silly.
I would be interested. I would be interested if for you to run a poll and on your podcast, and we run a poll on ours, on our maybe After the Shadows or something. And say, okay, how many people think that Sasquatch is completely made up, doesn't exist, but you just enjoy hearing it? How many people think that Sasquatch is a flesh and blood? It's a creature, just hasn't been discovered yet. We'll eventually catch one, blah, blah, blah. Versus what percentage you think that there's some sort of paranormal, supernatural, interdimensional component to it. just get a feel for what people out there actually think, anonymously.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can probably predict the answer though. Well, I don't know if I could tell you the proportion of, but there'll be definitely people firmly in both camps. That's for sure.
I'll give you a good example, a real life example. Giant squid.
Yes.
Okay. Nobody believed giant squids were real. They were creatures of folklore that sailors told to their families and et cetera, et cetera. And so back, the famous sinking of the Lusitania, which got the United States into World War One. Lusitania ship got sunk by a German U-boat. There were people that were in the water waiting to be picked up, and there were eyewitnesses that described a giant squid coming up and taking people under. They told newspapers this. Not a single newspaper ran that story.
Right.
Not a single paper said anything about survivors in the sea being taken down by a giant squid, because no newspaper wanted to ruin their credibility with folklore. Fast forward 60, 70 years, guess what science finds? Giant squids are real. We found a carcass, and now we know they're real. So here is something that people was convinced was folklore, didn't exist, despite even people saying that they saw them, and now it's mainstream science. Now it's mainstream, giant squids are real, oceanography, da-da-da-da. So will we ever get to that with Sasquatch, Yowie, Dogman, things like that? I don't know.
I don't know. It depends on, I guess the answer to that might depend on what they really are.
If they're supernatural in nature.
If they're supernatural in nature, they'll be...
I don't think we're ever going to get about it.
It could be like some people believe in ghosts and actually see them and sense them and feel them and smell them, and other people don't. It could be like that.
Well, I mean, you think about, here's what I would say. When Grover and I were kids, was very little subject matter out there about Bigfoot and cryptids. There was, the only thing we knew was Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster. Grover, anything else you can remember from back when we were kids?
Well, yeah, the Bermuda Triangle was big when we were kids.
Yeah, and then you had Nimoy specials, In Search Of.
but you certainly didn't think that something like Bigfoot was anywhere but the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
I didn't even know initially. I was really interested always in mysteries, so I knew about Bigfoot, but I didn't know when I was a kid that we actually had an Australian version. I only found that out much later on as an adult. Because
I didn't either. And I think I was watching Finding Bigfoot, which, by the way, the coincidence is that I went to law school with Matt Moneymaker.
Oh, right. There you go. And you both ended up in a similar field.
Law school.
What was that?
Yeah. He parlayed his law school degree into Bigfoot research, and is probably a lot more wealthier than I am. And I went the traditional be a lawyer route.
Well, lawyers make truckloads of money here. I don't know what you're doing wrong over there.
They bring truck up to my house every week and just drop it off.
Sarah, what you fail to realize is, as lawyers, they're trained liars. So the judge is lying to you right now.
Oh, fair enough, too.
So, but you say that that you didn't realize, there may be something in Australia like that. I've been getting contacted this week by a guy from Ireland who is sending me photo evidence that he claims is a Bigfoot in Ireland. And I've never heard of Bigfoot. I've never heard of that.
That's really interesting. I spoke to a guy a few months ago who saw a Bigfoot near Manchester in northern England, in Salford.
Really?
And I believed him totally 100%. And he wasn't after fame and fortune, and he didn't really want to come on the show, to be honest. I had to talk him into it. So, yes, I believe they have them over there too.
Now, wait a second. Coming on your show is equal to we get fame and fortune from that?
No, well, he
Wait
meant
for that Brinks truck.
no. I don't,
Yeah,
fame, maybe. There's no fortune involved. If you find that there is
Fortune I
fortune
discovered
somewhere,
all this is in a Chinese cookie.
yeah, that's right.
I would be interested, Sarah, if you've talked to anybody from like South America, like Brazil, where they have what they call the Lobazone
Mm-hmm.
down
No.
there, which sounds to me like Dogman.
Loba, what is it?
But,
It's
you know,
loba, which would be from the wolf.
Yeah, and keep in mind it would be Portuguese. So
Yes, yeah.
Brazilians, they speak Portuguese. So Lobazone
Lobazone.
probably means is probably werewolf in their
Yeah.
language. I don't know. But there's tons in these small villages in Brazil of this creature they call the Lobazone, and they will literally, I mean, down in some of these small villages, forests and stuff like that, the jungle, they will put curfews out. Nobody's allowed out at night because there's Lobazone sightings. And I mean, these wolf creatures are deeply, deeply entrenched into their culture down there. So I would be interesting to talk to somebody who's had a Lobazone experience and get a real good feel for what they saw. Does it look like the Egyptian god Anubis? You know what I mean? Is it something what we're experiencing?
I would love to.
And the rest.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to anyone from Brazil, but let me know if you do. I'd love to listen because it would be really interesting to find out what their stories are.
Yeah, because I mean, I've seen some on TV where they've, but obviously I wasn't the interviewer, so I couldn't ask the questions I want to ask. But these are people that claim they see these things, and they, like I said, they are, as a culture, they are deeply, deeply entrenched and fearful of these things. And you get to like Louisiana here in the United States, you get the whole, Rougarou
Yep.
mythology and things like that. But I'm just not in the camp. I've never been in the camp of a human being metamorphosing into a wolf. I don't know why. I just don't buy it.
Well, that's that skinwalker tradition, isn't it? That there's a lot of those stories in your country with the Native Americans.
Oh yeah,
skinwalkers, and I believe in South America as well. They have similar stories. We have the Aboriginal people here talk about skinwalkers as well.
Really?
So, yeah. And they talk about people who become clever men, and to become a clever man is like a shaman, I guess.
Right.
And so the shamans in time and in training are able to reach a point where they can shapeshift.
That goes right along with our
Yeah.
indigenous people here, skinwalker.
Yes.
Things where a shaman becomes, once a shaman reaches a certain level and then kills a family member, and they become a skinwalker.
Yes, exactly. You have to, from what I understand, in fact, was it Jack Carey who wrote Paranormal Planet, who talks about a small town where there were skinwalkers and people were murdered. It's a black magic thing. In order to obtain that ability, you have to kill someone to get there.
Grover, help me out. My brain has just went blank here. Not skinwalker. What's the other indigenous thing?
Chupacabra? Oh,
the Wendigo.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
The Wendigo. But yeah, the
Yeah,
Skinwalker Native American legend here, you have to kill a family member.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Not just kill somebody, you have to kill a family member.
Right.
You have to really give yourself away to the dark side.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, that's an extra level of creepy.
Of course.
Yeah.
Why not? If you're gonna go a little crazy, you might as well go a lot.
The whole
Go all in.
Yeah.
Sarah, hey, go ahead and if you wouldn't mind putting our information out there. If anybody has any questions about my encounter, they could shoot us an email. And sure, Grover, what is it? From the Shadows podcast at.
Listen, you're the one throwing it out there. What are you asking me for? I mean, come on. if anybody does want to contact us, they can get a hold of us on Facebook on After the Shadows is the easiest way. It's called After the Shadows. It's a Facebook forum that we have. Or they can find me on Instagram at Shane Grove Author, or the From the Shadows podcast Instagram. Or they can go to our website, fromtheshadowspodcast.com, and there's a contact tab there, and they can just send us an email. It's the easiest way to do it.
So, Sarah, I want to give you a shout out. You have the coolest intro song of any podcast out.
Oh, yeah.
How good is it? I love it.
Best.
It's the best.
It is.
When I found that song, I was so excited. It was so good, and then I wrote to the composer of that song, Parry Gripp, expecting him to say, "No way, you can't use my song." And he was so nice. He was so lovely. He said, "Yeah, sure, go for it, use it." And I was like, "I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. That's very generous. Can I pay you for it or something?" And he said, no. He said, "Nobody likes that song anyway." And I said, "Well, that's not true because all of the people, I've had quite a few people, including you, tell me how much you love that song." So I was very lucky, and he's a really generous man for allowing me to use it.
We need to come up with a clever song for From the Shadows podcast, so I don't think we can top that.
What are you talking about? I wrote our theme song.
Yeah,
Believe me, I don't get any money for it either. Trust me.
No royalties. That's outrageous.
I got into podcasting, being a guest on the show because, one, I had no interest in making any money off anything, but I just thought that I told my story that can inspire other people who were similarly situated, who were too, I guess, embarrassed or afraid to be ridiculed. I would inspire them to come out and tell their story, and I would say that's been a success. And we've had people that's come forward and said, "Hey, you know, we're telling the story because you told yours." So
fantastic.
That's the best gift that I could get out of it.
Absolutely. I do get lovely comments like that from people in the Facebook group and in the interviews that I do. People saying that the show has made it easier for them to come forward now and feel comfortable coming forward and not afraid of being ridiculed. It's a safe space. So that's exactly
absolutely.
Yeah, that for me that's all that matters really. Like you, it's the same.
Yeah, and it's the funniest thing is, because I'm a big, I got a lot of free time on my hands while I'm out there delivering mail. So I do listen to a lot of podcasts, or I do listen to a regular rotation of them. And, and you're always like, okay, it's Wednesday. A new one's coming out on, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
People have regular schedules. And when we miss, like we did this week, we missed our regular schedule because of Jason had some stuff going on. People start going, "Hey, where's the new episode? What's going on?"
Yeah.
Like, is it coming? And it's like, oh, I forgot. It's like crack for you guys because you're used to every Wednesday and Friday there's a show coming out, and you depend on that. They just depend on it, and so
they do.
So I do kind of feel like responsible for helping some people through their days, whether it's the funny podcast we put out or the paranormal one. There's big audiences for both of them, and people kind of depend on that to help them with either it's their drive to work or whatever. So I feel some responsibility.
Yeah, I always feel guilty if I have to. Last year I had 2-week breaks, and it was only because I was sick. And I felt really bad having to cancel at the last minute. It was, not a nice feeling because it's not nice.
We try to get a couple ahead so that if there is a week that we're busy, we just, we don't sweat it.
We got the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got some in the bank. So, but we're like you. We're trying to up our website to where we have a members only section, and it's going to require us doing extra content. And, so we're trying to, me and the guy that do the funny one, we're trying to bank some shows so that when we unleash that, we have the extra content for a couple months.
That's a good idea.
So.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's that if you adding 1 extra hour of content a week is actually hours and hours of work for that 1 extra hour of content. So it's whether you've got the drive and the time and the creative space and the material. Like I try and be ahead a few weeks as well, but sometimes, particularly towards the end of the year, I'm looking around, checking my notes, going, surely there's something I can put in the show this week. I'm stuck for material.
Yeah, ours definitely goes in spurts. Well, I'll get like 5 people in a week that want to come on, and then I'll sort them out and we'll interview them over the next couple of weeks. And then I'm like, man, I don't have anybody lined up. But then somebody always, something always happens. So
yeah. Well, and keep in mind, if you ever get really stuck, just call me and I can chat to you for an hour. I'll come up with some of my Australian stories for you.
Hey, listen, everybody always says, hey, when are you going to have that lady that talks in the sexy accent?
Oh, my sexy voice. Fantastic. my phone sex voice. Anytime you like, just dial 1-800-345-345.
See? And you're worried about making money. There you go.
Somebody did say that to me once. They said, you have the best phone sex voice. I'll take that as a compliment, I guess. It was an absolute joy talking to you. An honour to have you back on Yowie Central.
It was fun. It was fun getting to hang out with you.
Yeah, really nice. And nice to meet you, Judge.
Pleasure. And I enjoy your show when I catch it. And I hope that some of your Australian listeners enjoy my encounter. And like I said, if they have any questions, have them email me and I'll get back with them straight away. Will
do. Shane Grove and the Judge from the Shadows podcast. Make sure you check out their show. It's awesome. If you've seen a Dogman or had an unusual experience you'd like to get off your chest and share with the Yowie Central listeners, I am always taking submissions from Australia and from around the world. So get in touch with me via yowiecentral@gmail.com or via the Yowie Central Facebook group. Well, that's it for this week, my friends. Yowie Central will be back next week. Thank you so much for joining me on my very first independent show. I'll catch you next week.
Out in the cold, out in the dark, something's lurking at the edge of the park. People be warned, people beware, there's a storm on the rise and it's covered in hair. Hear him cry, hear him howl, looking for someone to disembowel. Claws like a hook, eyes like coal, feet so big they're gonna crush your soul. They call him Sasquatch. I can't see under the darkness behind the tree. Is he a monster? Is he a man? Is he a demon under Satan's command? Hear him cry, hear him howl, looking for someone to disembowel. Claws like a hook, eyes like coal, feet so big they're gonna crush your soul. They call him Sasquatch. Yeah! You might be rich, you pretty young thing, better hide the glint of your diamond ring. Your fancy jacket won't be worth a dime when you're sucking the blood right out of your spine. Hear him cry, hear him howl, looking for some to disembark.